Hi everyone, this is Ryan, and welcome back to this presentation on my DNA ancestry as the results are in. Before we do that, I want to tell you why I got my DNA test. Believe it or not, it was the three budgies that prompted me while they were channeling the angels. They told me to not only check out my grandfather's ancestry, but get a DNA test as well. In one recording, Danny said, "The original ancestry of Ryan was bound in the same religion we have in heaven. We know he savors time with the angels." And in another he said, "The angels have his help and will be working with budgies who talk and connect the bloodline of Adamkadmon to help the world." Once I checked out Adamkadmon, which was my grandfather's last name on my mother's side, I found that his name was in the Kabbalah and it was a symbol of primordial man as well as a few other things. So obviously, curiosity set in and I got the DNA test done. So after that and multiple other recordings of budgies mentioning my ancestral past, I decided to pay for a DNA test. This test brought out some very interesting facts about those who have connections to my ancestry. Keep in mind, I'm not a DNA expert and currently have no idea of the statistics that resulted from the test. So the first thing I'd like to mention is that I sent my DNA in to CRI Genetics, which is one of the apparently one of the better clinics for sampling DNA, and they received my sample around the 16th of September 2019, and this is just a confirmation that they received my sample. So I have no idea. The only thing I know about my grandfather, and as far as on my mother's side, is that he came from Hungary early in the early 1900s, and the same with my grandfather on my dad's side, whose last name was Reynolds. And my grandfather on my mom's side, last name was Kadmon, as I mentioned before. So I have no idea. We basically haven't done any back checking because it's been very difficult to do that. So around the 18th of September 2019, they said that the results were in, and I was sent to a spot to log in, and this is the information, and the next part's going to be the information that I'm going to show you for that when I logged in. So I'm logged in now to CRI Genetics. There's my name and the kit number. And now I'm going to do the maternal haplo. So the maternal haplo is how it breaks down from your mother and it goes to your grandmother, so forth. And I belong to the T2 haplogroup. Now the MT is where the first E was supposed to have been born, and there's a little display here. It shows you how they migrated throughout the different groups. So I'm going to play that. Went to L3 to N to R, JT, and then T2. So if we take a closer look at T2, we find that basically ends up in the Turkey area, which is interesting because that's only a few hundred miles away from Göbekli Tepe, and the Garden of Eden, I think, is right in this area right here. We're supposed to be in this area of the Euphrates River. Now let's go down to the paternal haplo. And this is me and my father on my dad's side, which was Reynolds, and then my grandfather who migrated from England. And originally I didn't get this, but I paid for the extra to get that. And in that group, I am an L1. Let's play that, see how that works out. Goes to A, A1, A1B, BT, CT, CF, F, and it goes all the way over to L, and then L1. And the L1 is in the Warsaw, Poland area. Okay, now I want to do the famous people one. This is the one I found the most interesting. So this is my famous people mother lineage, which was the Kadmon bloodline. And the first one up there is Eva Longoria, which is interesting. She looks a little, and she was born in 1975, and she looks a little bit like my sister when she was younger. And she's on the list of 200 most influential philanthropists and social entrepreneurs worldwide. Now the next one was Momia Juanita, and that's Spanish for Mummy Juanita, and she was also known as the Inca Ice Maiden and Lady of Amparo. She was a well-preserved frozen body of an Inca girl and was offered as a sacrifice to the Inca gods sometimes between 1450 and 1480, and she was only 12 to 15 years old. It's interesting that that's around the time I think that the Spaniards came to South America. Unfortunately, that's all it does for my mother's lineage of the Kadmon bloodline. I wish it would go back further. So the famous people sharing my DNA on my father's side, the first one is Birger Jarl. Birger Jarl was one of Sweden's greatest medieval statesmen. He was the founder of Stockholm and acted as the regent of Sweden for 18 years. In 1261, Birger married the Danish queen Dowager Malakita of Holstein, and Birger died on the 21st of October 1266. That was one thing there, and moving on from that, the next and I found the most interesting was Emanuel Swedenborg, who was a Swedish scientist, a philosopher, theologian, revelator, and mystic. Now, going to some of his stuff, he's got quite a bit on him. So, Emanuel Swedenborg, he was born on the 8th of February, 1688 to 29th of March 1772, and he was a Swedish pluralistic Christian theologian, scientist, philosopher, and mystic. He was best known for his book on the afterlife, Heaven and Hell. And he had a prophetic career as an inventor scientist. He entered a spiritual phase in which he began to experience dreams and visions beginning on Easter weekend on 6th of April 1744, and had a spiritual awakening in which he believed he received a revelation that he was appointed by the Lord Jesus Christ to write the Heavenly Doctor to reform Christianity. According to the Heavenly Doctrine, the Lord opened Swedenborg's spiritual eyes so that from then on he could freely visit heaven. And it says hell here too, which I tend to question. And then it says, according to Swedenborg, we leave the physical world once, but then go through several lives in the spiritual world, a kind of hybrid Christian tradition and the popular view of reincarnation. So he believed in reincarnation. The next interesting thing, he followed this person named Jasper, Jesper. Jesper furthermore held the unconventional belief that angels and spirits were present in everyday life, and it had a strong impact on Emanuel. There's quite a few interesting things in this one, saying that he was way ahead of his time. During the 1730s, he undertook many studies of anatomy and physiology. He had the first known anticipation of the neuron concept, and it wasn't until a century later that science recognized the full significance of the nerve cell. He also understood a lot about the cerebral cortex and the nervous system. In the 1730s, he became increasingly interested in spiritual matters and was determined to find a theory to explain how matter relates to spirit. And Swedenborg's desire to understand the order and the purpose of creation first led him to investigate the structure of matter and the process of creation itself. In 1743, at the age of 55, Swedenborg requested a leave of absence to go abroad. His purpose was to gather some material for the Regnum Animal, the animal kingdom, a subject on which books were not really available in Sweden, and the aim of the book was to explain the soul from an anatomical point of view. He had planned to produce about 17 volumes. Swedenborg experienced many different dreams and visions, some greatly pleasurable, others highly disturbing. So he translated dreams and visions as well. In the Universe, it is stated that he conversed with spirits from Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, Venus, and the Moon, as well as spirits from planets beyond the solar system. From the encounters, he concluded that the planets of our solar systems are inhabited, and that such an enormous undertaking as the universe could not have been created for just one race on a planet or one heaven derived from its properties per planet. Many heavenly societies were also needed to increase the perfection of the angelic heavens and heaven to fill in deficiencies and gaps in other societies. He argued, what would this be to God, who is infinite, and to whom 1,000 or tens of thousands of planets, and all of them full of inhabitants, would be scarcely anything. Swedenborg and the question of life on other planets has been extensively reviewed elsewhere. So he believed in UFOs and all kinds of things that are happening nowadays. And he proposed many scientific ideas during his lifetimes. In his youth, he wanted to present a new idea every day. After 1745, he instead considered himself receiving scientific knowledge in a spontaneous manner from angels. And from 1745, he considered himself to have entered a spiritual state. He tended to phrase his experience in empirical terms to report accurately things he had experienced on his spiritual journeys. And there's only one or two more of these. So, the new Church of Swedenborgianism is the name of several historically related Christian denominations that derived as a new religious group influenced by the writings of scientists and Swedish Lutheran theologian Emanuel Swedenborg. According to Swedenborg, he received a new revelation from Christ in visions he experienced over a period of at least 25 years. And the last one that I wanted to mention of his, and it says here, Swedenborg's landlord, servant girl Elizabeth Reynolds, also said that Swedenborg had predicted the date and that he was as happy about it as if he was going on a holiday to some merrymaking. That's when he died. She was at his bedside. And she was supposedly his maid, but was also a very good friend of hers. It's possible that because he was never married, they might have even been having a relationship together. So there's quite a bit on him, and I thought that all that was quite interesting. So I'm not going to go into all the rest of him as much as I did with Emanuel.